He left home with nothing but a small bag and a burning dream. Everyone thought he'd never return. But 10 years later, when a black luxury car stopped in front of his old house, no one could believe who stepped out. This is the story of a boy who turned pain into power and silence into success. The sun was just beginning to rise over the small rural town where Ethan had grown up. Life here was slow, predictable, and safe. But for Ethan, it felt like a cage. His father worked as a mechanic in a dusty old garage. His mother stitched clothes for neighbors, and his younger sister spent her afternoons chasing chickens in the yard. Everyone in town seemed to accept their fate, but Ethan couldn't. He had dreams bigger than the fields that surrounded his house. Every night, lying on the old wooden bed, he would stare at the cracked ceiling and imagine skyscrapers, bright lights, and a life where he didn't have to struggle to make ends meet. One morning, without telling anyone, he packed a small bag, took the few dollars he had saved from odd jobs, and boarded a bus to the city. He didn't know anyone there. He didn't even know what he was going to do. But he knew one thing. He wasn't going to live a life of regret. The first few weeks in the city were brutal. He slept in bus stations and public parks. He washed dishes at a cheap diner for long hours, just to be able to eat. Some nights, he questioned his decision. Was it a mistake to leave his family behind? But every time doubt crept in, he reminded himself why he left. He wanted to build a life that would inspire not just him, but also the people who believed they couldn't dream bigger. Ethan worked any job he could find, cleaning floors, carrying boxes, fixing things. But he didn't stop learning. After work, he would spend hours in the public library, reading about business, technology, and success stories of people who had started with nothing. He watched free online courses, practiced skills on borrowed computers, and slowly began to sharpen his mind. He understood something powerful. Circumstances might not be in your control, but your mindset always is. One evening, while delivering food to an office, he overheard a group of young entrepreneurs talking about a new app they were building. The way they talked about innovation lit a fire inside him. He walked up nervously and asked if they needed help. They laughed at first, seeing a delivery boy try and talk business. But Ethan didn't give up. He returned the next day with ideas he had written down overnight. His ideas were raw, but brilliant. One of the entrepreneurs saw something in him and decided to give him a chance, not as a partner, but as an intern. For months, Ethan worked for almost no money. He handled boring tasks, made coffee, organized files, but he listened, learned, and absorbed everything like a sponge. Eventually, he started contributing real ideas to the project. His natural talent for understanding what people wanted made their app more user-friendly and appealing. When the app launched, it became a massive hit in the local market. Investors took notice. The company grew rapidly, and so did Ethan's role. By the time he was 25, Ethan wasn't just an employee anymore. He was a co-founder. He invested every dollar he earned back into new ideas. Some failed miserably, but each failure taught him something new. He didn't let setbacks break him. He used them as fuel. Over the next decade, he built multiple companies, focusing on solving real problems. He created jobs, supported communities, and became known in the city as a visionary who started from zero. Then one day, after 10 long years, Ethan decided to return to his hometown. But this time, he didn't take the bus. He drove back in a sleek black car, the kind people in his town had only seen in magazines. When he reached his old house, nothing much had changed. The same wooden fence, the same dusty road, the same sound of chickens. But when his parents saw him step out of the car, they froze. Their son, the boy who had, left with a small bag and a big dream, was now a confident, successful man. Tears rolled down his mother's eyes as she hugged him tightly. His father, a man of few words, placed his rough hands on Ethan's shoulders and simply said, "You made it, son." Ethan smiled. He didn't come back to show off. He came back to give back. He helped rebuild the local school, opened a community center, and gave scholarships to kids who, like him, had big dreams but limited opportunities. People in the town began to see him not just as a successful man, but as living proof that your beginnings do not define your destiny. Ethan shared his story with young people, reminding them that success doesn't come overnight, and it doesn't come without pain. But if you are willing to work harder than anyone else, stay hungry to learn, and never give up on yourself, you can change everything. His journey wasn't about money alone. It was about transformation. From a boy who ran away because he felt trapped, to a man who returned to uplift others. From washing dishes to building companies. From being invisible to becoming an inspiration. Ethan's story reminds us all that sometimes you have to step into the unknown, even when it's terrifying. You have to believe in your vision before anyone else does. The world might not give you a perfect path, but if you keep moving, keep learning, and keep believing, you can build your own. Years later, when asked what kept him going during those tough early days, Ethan smiled and said, "I refuse to let fear decide my future. I chose faith, work, and perseverance over comfort." And that's the message he left with everyone who crossed his path. You don't have to come from wealth, privilege, or connections to make it big. You just have to believe that you can, and work like it depends on you.